I have two back-to-back breaking news and top news trending in the world medias. Number one is at the United Nations General Assembly, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Ukraine might be the first target, urging nations to reinforce international security and oppose aggression. The high-level week of the 80th United Nations General Assembly is underway September 22 to 30, with leaders discussing peace, climate development and the Palestinian issue. As I have raised the Palestinian issue, let me give you the latest update on Palestinians. Countries recognize Palestinian statehood amid conflict pressures. Several nations including the UK, France, Canada, Australia and Belgium moved to officially recognize Palestinian statehood during the United Nations sessions, putting diplomatic pressure on Israel or reigniting debates on the two-state solution. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SCTV's International Affairs, broadcasting from SCTV's Dhaka studio. My name is Rashid Kanchan. I will be your host. I have a very distinguished person in the studio who has long career serving in Bangladesh Air Force, one of the finest service center in Bangladesh, Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi. And from New York, United Nations General Assembly, our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho will be joining soon in a minute. And from Washington DC, our geopolitical correspondent Norman Flatt Barnes is there. Let me begin from United Nations headquarters. Shamsul Alam Pantho is over there. Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, what are the latest you have? What are the updates you have? And what you want to say as your introductory news clipping?
Thank you, Mr. Rashid Kanchan. Of course, welcoming all my panelists in the studio and across Zoom in America. First of all, I want to begin by saying that I was there during the second day of the general debate, and much of the concerns are regarding the countries, basically regarding Ukraine, Spain, Monaco, Iran, Switzerland, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Australia, Italy, amongst other nations. We see how most European nations came out to the opening statement of President Volodymyr Zelensky, who slammed Russia for this ongoing aggression that we see into Ukraine. But alongside, there has been remarks from President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, that the Iran never sought or seeks to build a nuclear weapon. And of course, he's trying to avoid all kinds of European sanctions, and thus such a statement. But alongside this, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had reaffirmed to resolve or find a peaceful solution to the Ukraine war. And of course, this meeting was held behind closed doors, and it lasted almost 1 hour and concluded without opening remarks for the press. So it's good to say that the press do not know what the two diplomats had exchanged. But it was, of course, resolving the Ukrainian crisis, building the understandings between Russian America summit in Anchorage that happened in August 15. So these were the developments that we have from the UN. And let me also add on that almost in about 60 years, Syria's representative and its leader, Ahmed al-Shara, kept his opening speech even while being labeled a terrorist by US and UN organizations. So this is a historic first that has taken place at UNGA80.
All right, Shamsul Alam Pantho, I'm sure you are enjoying good weather in New York. And in New York, this is the time that 4 a.m. in the morning as per Eastern Standard Time. We are so happy to get you here. Let me connect with Washington. Norman is there. Norman is SCTV's geopolitical correspondent based in Washington, who covers White House, Oval Office, left wing, right wing, Congress, and of course Senate. Norman, I just want to know, Donald Trump is in New York now. He is doing so many sidelines, meeting with the world leaders. He is hosting so many dinners and lunch with world leaders. But his mission is different this time. His plan is different this time. And would you please let us know regarding the US politics, US administration, Donald Trump's moves, and of course United Nations General Assembly's latest updates you have, Mr. Norman?
Yes, good morning from Washington, D.C. We have a lot of stuff to cover, but basically response to President Trump his change, his response is based on he wants the European Union to step up and take more responsibility in the outcomes of the Middle East and dealing with Russia. He mentioned yesterday about certain things that Ukraine can achieve with the help of the involvement of the European Union. We also have this sadly report that we have political violence. Once again, we wake up this morning that in Dallas, a shooter from the rooftop once again killed people. A detainee by ISIS headquarters was killed. Two other was injured, and the shooter took his own life. He indiscriminately decided to shoot at a van, and he killed many people. He killed several people, but the political parties are now taking that as another opportunity to blame the left wing regarding the violence. So that is much debate going on regarding that.
All right, Norman, here in the studio, we have an expert. He served in Bangladesh Air Force. Sir, you have heard Russia's airspace violation of NATO countries, Estonia, then Denmark, Finland, and of course Poland. Russia violated 4 NATO countries' airspace. My question would be to you, what does Russia's violation of NATO member airspace tell us about its strategic intentions, and how should NATO credibly respond? Because according to Article 5, if one NATO member is under attack, all members should consider it the attack to itself.
First of all, let me say that this is not an attack as such. They have not, yes, there has been violations, especially of Poland. If you are going to attack Ukraine, and devise a new, say, detour, then you might as well fly over Poland. If you see the map, you will see fly over Poland and enter Ukraine. So the aircraft and a number of drones, they overflew Poland's airspace. I don't know about other one you said mentioned, Estonia. Estonia is a very small, state surrounded by Russia all around. So it is possible that their aircraft will overfly Estonia. So this is a violation of airspace, and I think the response from Poland has been they have scrambled the aircraft, they have alerted their air defense systems and all, and in fact they have shot down a number of drones which violated. So this is another way of maybe the Russians wants to see also the the strength of the NATO's strength in stopping or trying to stop these incursions, and they want to test the resolve of the NATO countries. Okay, so everybody has fallen behind with NATO condemning with Poland condemning the whole incident, and would let us see if there is future incursions and large scale violations. There might be even air battle, if for example, manned aircraft, they come in and they're intercepted by the Polish Air Force or other allied air force, German Air Force,
right,
then there can be further increased
tensions. Here is a breakthrough, sir. Here is a breakthrough. Let me tell you the breakthrough. Donald Trump says Ukraine can recapture all its territories. This is a huge breakthrough after Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin, his counterpart. I mean NATO's counterpart or Ukraine's counterpart. I want to engage Shamsul Alam Pantho, our international affairs commentator, who follows Donald Trump's every single move. He is now in New York. He is covering United Nations General Assembly. Shamsul Alam Pantho, my question would be, with Donald Trump declaring that Ukraine can recapture all its territory. How likely is escalation or a diplomatic breakthrough, because it is a big statement comes from the United States President Donald Trump?
Well, thank you for passing me the mantle here, but there is something that has happened, and the Guardian was reporting regarding Donald Trump. Former or current President Donald Trump is claiming that his UN address was undermined by a triple sabotage, citing issues with escalator, a teleprompter, etc. And he's also demanding an investigation into the matter of why such an event, such a sabotage maneuver was given at the UNGA. But as you were saying about Ukraine and how Russia has escalated to a point where we observe that there has been border issues of foreign interference by foreign aircrafts, especially for Estonia and other countries. We see today Finland's remark, opening speech by its leader, and even he has said that they are ready and prepared as a member of NATO to counter any kind of escalation by the Russian side. Let me emphasize that Finland has a large, long border with Russia, and of course, United States' position remains such that even if you look at the Article 4 and 5 of NATO, any kind of escalation shall be met by further retaliation and, of course, support by the United States of America towards NATO if other NATO countries are targeted. But of course, this is a maneuver by the Kremlin just to show, just to see what are the tactics used by NATO to deter such actions.
Well, I need to get back to Norman. Norman, what is the risk of localized conflict into a broader war, and how can international institutions prevent it, Donald Trump? Have you got my point?
I understand your point, but the word prevention has to be taken out of the narrative. There's no prevention. There's provocation, there's provocation, there's intimidation. Russia has a strategy to disrupt Europe. They are probing and testing every day. NATO and Europe is now being looked at and determining, governments are determining whether or not they are credible. Credibility means that paper is nice, condemnations, proclamations are fine, but what actions is going to be taken by NATO? What are you going to do about it? That is the only thing that Russia is watching and see. Are you going to respond, or are you just going to huff and puff and just go back to writing a letter and talking about it on the news? We're past that. If anyone thinks this is just a mistake or just playing games, this is serious business. Winter's starting. Russia knows that they have certain European countries that are dependent on them for energy and other things, and they are basically leveraging that, and also the situation with the United States and President Trump's abrupt change on doing things. The American administration is now looking towards Europe to stand up and to respond and to do something versus waiting for the United States to lead. So you're going to see a change in the response to the Americans and the other countries in regarding to this issue in Europe with Ukraine and also the Middle East. So Europe is now being watched and seeing exactly what's going on. Hopefully the United Nations will get with the UN and they will take actions to basically counter-respond to Russia.
All right, Norman, we have discussed about the Russian airspace violation on NATO members countries. At least 4 incidents took place. I need to go for a conclusion on this issue with a big question to Air Commodore Reshfaq Elahi, because he has experience of operating or serving in a force which is the force for the next century's war. Sir, are we entering into a new era of grey zone confrontations, drones, airspace probes, cyber attacks, rather than full scale war on the battlefield.
Exactly, you know, if we come back to our subcontinent, we recently saw the India-Pakistan conflict, 4 days, very short 4 days, and very interestingly, both the air forces were operating, but no air force crossed the international boundary. The aircrafts were in their own territory, but they were attacking targets 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers away, and very accurately. And the aircraft was also lost, on both sides, and the pilots did not see each other many miles away, and there was no real dogfight. So we are actually, is this a war, or is this a conflict, or is this an act short of war? It's very difficult to say. So when you said that gray zone, actually, by war, what we mean is that the armies will be moving and the tanks are moving into each other's territory, they are coming into conflict and people are dying and the cities are being attacked. That type of war, I mean, that is happening.
That was 20th century war.
That is happening. And what is happening in Ukraine, for example, I always say it's a first world war being reenacted, that the battlefront is not changing and they are killing each other, thousands of shells flying across, but the result is still zero. Here in this case of India, Pakistan, we have seen, or even Iran, Israel, or the latest in Doha. Now this attack, as you said, the violation, yes, there was airspace violation, there was ground violation. The aircraft went, for example, in Doha, they crossed 2-3 countries, at least. They overflew, the Israeli aircraft overflew Jordan probably, and overflew whole of Saudi Arabia, and then attacked Doha. And then they flew back same. Now this is the violation of all these 3 countries. So, but it's not a war. So really, there was one attack, and after that, few exchange of notes and protest and counter protest, everything goes down.
Yeah,
so this the gray zone thing, as you said, will continue to remain there, and most countries would like to avoid full scale war, as we have seen in the past. So again in Ukraine, when you say that in the previous one you discussed that Trump says that they should recapture the lost territory. What he meant probably is that they have if given the capability, they can, but at what price? Price both for Ukraine as well as for Russia. So who's going to pay that price? That's the thing.
All right, sir. Let me again go to New York, United Nations General Headquarters. Our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho is online. My question would be, you see, in the United Nations General Assembly, we see Donald Trump is very vibrant, very active. Turkish President Erdogan is very active, very vibrant. Indian Prime Minister is very vibrant, but the absence of Chinese President Xi Jinping, absence of South African President Jacob Zuma, and absence of course, world's most unpredictable leader Vladimir Putin, absence here in UNGA. What are the vibes actually, or what are the messages going to the world about the UNGA, this session, 80th session? Shamsul Alam Pantho from New York.
Thanks for passing me this question. Of course, it's quite so important. We understand that major players are not in attendance of the UNGA 80 this time around, especially that includes Xi Jinping and of course Vladimir Putin. But let me take you back. Just a few days ago, we had the SEO summit in which much of the leaders were also there from the global south, what they call it. But the absence of Donald Trump had become ever so relevant. But if you look at UNGA this time around, the common topics include Ukraine and, of course, the continuous heinous attacks on the people of Palestine. So this has been the general consensus here. Everyone is trying to push for a two-state solution. Even we see that the Qatari Emir yesterday had commented for a two-state solution. And not only so, let me also add on here that there is a news of a bilateral talk between the leaders of United States of America and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, which is likely to be hosted in the White House in Washington, D.C. So the general temperature over here remains quite fruitful as we go on with the event for the coming couple of days. There will be more debates sessions for other world leaders to comment on these issues. But I want to address all our viewers in Bangladesh and around the globe that the general citizens of America do understand and do support this Palestine recognition. And before, even before, so this has been some kind of territorial genocide ever since for the last 8 or so decades. So once again, reiterating the fact that common Americans see this as America's blatant support for Israel only fuels this aggression towards killing innocent children and women inside that enclave. And not only so, world leaders are now pushing, and Israel is facing some kind of push from even European countries that this is not going to have any kind of political win to this aggression.
All right. Let me talk. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Minute.
Please, sir.
You know, you have been, of course, focusing on the UN General Assembly, but let me tell you, there is a serious doubts in the minds of citizens in general that United Nations has far outlived its utility. There is serious questions being asked. Is it going to see like the way League of Nations faded away? Because many of the world issues are not being, United Nations has been quite ineffective, including our own domestic in the Rohingya issues we have seen. And some of the important decisions are held outside the United Nations, between the major powers or between the bilaterally and all. So United Nations it's a congregation of all the leaders in the world. They can go and they can talk and some people may listen, some people may not listen. But the outcome, I am sorry, is quite disappointing.
I think I should put this question to Shamsul Alam Panto, who is on the spot, eyewitness of 80th UNGA this year. You have heard Shamsul Alam Panto, that Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, very knowledgeable gentleman, he says the effectiveness of UNGA, and he has raised a question that are you going to see the League of Nations sort of things. I mean, the importance of League of Nations has been finished for some reason, and United Nations has been formed. Now questions are coming, what is the effectiveness of United Nations? Sir, Shamsul Alam Panto.
I was hearing very carefully to Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, sir, and of course he does have a point in saying that the UN is restricted to a certain level. I want to use a metaphor to describe the current situation of the United Nations. Of course, the UN is a stage, but underneath this stage there are a lot of cracks. So why I say this and why I put it this way is you can come out in outright condemnation, you can come out by saying that a heinous crime has taken place in some part of the earth, but I am a citizen of Bangladesh, and for the last 8 years I do not see any kind of major developments towards even one of our border territorial issues. So this is just one example from Bangladesh, but there are other examples all across the globe. And as I said, it is a stage where everyone takes notice of, and this is not just some meeting that happens every other or time or when they discuss. It's an annual gathering of the world's leaders. Every year, the third week of September is marked as a moment for the year when all the leaders are in a position to or to reclaim or to show the entire world what the entire stage is all about. But however, Commodore Ishfaq sir does have a point that the UN is not being able to live up to its what is expected of the United Nations. Certainly, you take a look at Donald Trump. He has been cutting off and removing himself from institutions of very significant importance. So one of them being UNESCO, something that looks after the cultural and heritage sites of all over the globe, not just here in America. So pulling out in general from the United Nations sub-bodies that it has, it is definitely detrimental not only to the society here in the United States of America, but UN as a whole. So of course, UN is looking for support not only from United States, but other players. And might I say, this is an avid opportunity for China to make some kind of remark, if not to look at the woes that have United Nations also worried.
Very technical, very logical, and of course very practical, decisive response from Shamsul Alam Panto. I'm so impressed. I need to ask one question to Norman before I go to the break. Norman, is it the reason of US dominance to the United Nations that effectiveness of United Nations is under huge question?
We must look at what's happening in the world. The United Nations is basically a symbolic union, and they meet once a year. Well, actually, this is the 80th meeting, and the world has to decide exactly, are they needed for the future? Are they aligned to where we want to go, or are they just something, a symbolic piece from the past, something that's a segue to something else? It has to evolve, or I would use the term, either you evolve or you dissolve. So it's at that critical point. We are at the point right now. Is it necessary? Do we have the necessary funding to continue? Do people want to fund it, or do they want to do something else? It's evident by the power leaders are not represented there. China, Russia, U.S. in and out. The other players are not necessary. So it appears that we are evolving to something else, a more effective process. The UN has no authority to do anything. They can't. They can only talk about it, but they can't stop. They can't do anything. They can fuss and discuss it, but will they stop any type of aggression? Will they stop any type of future conflict? No. They don't have the power, and they have to basically recognize that. So it should be a time where we look at how do we enhance what's going on, and how can we take these countries as we have them here and discuss about how do we become stronger in the future.
Yes, Norman, I was listening the commentary of Fox News, which is considered as the conservative media house in Washington and in different states, but Fox says after 78 years of United Nations formation, United States stops its funding, and China may take this opportunity and start funding, and it is not unlikely if UN headquarters moves to China. This is just an assumption, sir, from a Fox News commentator. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for a short break, but after the break I will raise questions about Middle East conflict, diplomacy and humanitarian crisis. Stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে।
The respected viewers of this show often ask me directly that you discuss Middle East, you discuss Russia, Ukraine, why don't you discuss the situation in Bangladesh? especially Rohingya issues, because Bangladesh is not able to host 1.52 million Rohingyas for uncertain issues. We will definitely discuss it in the third part of the program today, as we have a very distinguished personality, Yar Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, in the studio. And from United Nations, we have Shamsul Alam Pantho, our international affairs commentator, now visiting New York. And from Washington, we have Norman Flood Barnes. He is our geopolitical correspondent based in Washington. I want to begin with Shamsul Alam Pantho this time, because this is about Middle East conflict, diplomacy and humanitarian crisis. My question is very straight, Pantho. That is, how credible is the latest US or United Nations peace proposal for Gaza, and what are its strengths and weakness? Because people of the world wants to see the action from United Nations.
Well, when considering the Gaza issue, I mean, United States has been supporting the narrative that they must eliminate Hamas no matter where it may be. And what that avenue has done is that it has allowed the government of Israel and leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu to attack on a sovereign nation in Qatar. So this eventually had opened up Pandora's box to a certain degree, and the entire Middle East is now becoming a decentralized kind of position, and it's of course very hostile. And not just that, even when I was flying in to New York, I chose my transit to become through Dubai. So just as that attack happened, a lot of industries in one go had made a decision that it is now unsafe for the new reality that Israel does have expansionism plans in towards the Middle East. And of course, all of these nations and all of these narratives are, as it comes through, we see that any moment this can escalate into a further retaliation. There have been talks between another escalation between Iran and Israel. And we know that IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is trying to understand what kind of internal goals there are of the Iranian government to secure a warhead, even as its president had said today that they do not seek to create a nuclear weapon. So these are the issues that, and of course, if there were any nuclear armed weapons in Iran, then of course they would have showed that in their 12-day fight with Israel. But even when that happened, the US had helped Israel bombing the nuclear facilities. And on such, and of course it's the 21st century, and doing such acts in the 21st century does have certain effects and long-lasting effects that will definitely have an impact towards the region.
All right, sir. I want to include Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, because this question fits very well for him, because he has a long-serving career in Bangladesh Air Force with credibility and integrity. So, question is, how credible is the latest US, United Nations, and European countries' proposal for Gaza, and what are the strengths and weakness? Because few of the countries already declared as a sovereign country Palestine.
Yeah. So the main contention here is that in that proposal, 21-point proposal, that the disarmament and the ceasefire in Gaza will be effective only if Hamas is neutralized. I don't think it will be they aimed at elimination, but the question is that Hamas may declare itself as a political, non-violent political entity, just like PLA, PLO, those are, they have declared, they have renounced the use of force, and an Israel, a Palestinian state may come up which will be represented through an elected representative to form a government. Right now, you see, last 30 years, Hamas is, of course, we know that they have a lot of support in the Gaza enclave, but what is their authority? They have not come through an elected, through elected body. So, if Hamas declares that we are no longer, we renounce violence, we come through the,
Sir, it is a good proposal. I need to ask this question to Norman. Norman lives in Washington. Norman watches every single issue held in Washington administration. Norman, you are hearing Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi. He says if Hamas declares itself a non-violent political party, then what happens? But you have to remember, Israel has attacked 7 Arabian countries and claims that Hamas is there.
Yes, I start out by responding a question. What's the difference between Hamas and Palestine? What's the difference? The difference is basically how they feel about it, how Israel feel about it. Israel has a plan using Hamas as an excuse to deal with what they want to do. They want to annex the area. Several countries in the Middle East has mentioned if they attempt to annex the West Bank and the other part of the region, they will respond. President Trump has assured the Arab leaders that he will not allow or tolerate Israel annexation and aggression to the region. That is going to be the one that is going to have a response. The annexation and the movement of the Israeli takeover of the region. Hamas is just an excuse.
All right, when a person like Norman, who was a former ambassador, who is a member of peacekeeping, peace negotiation teams and a very well reputed journalist, when he says Hamas is just an excuse, I want to say to Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi that today Hamas is the excuse, Israel is attacking 7 countries, 8 countries, tomorrow Houthi will be excused, then next morning Hezbollah is going to be excused.
Hezbollah, of course, Hezbollah, Houthis, they must be, you see, what is you must assure Israel a peaceful state. What we are looking for is a peaceful 2-state solution, where it may be absolutely hypothetical today, but it is possible that Israel and Palestine live side by side in peace, and that is the only answer, and that will be possible if Israel renounces all its aggression and the Palestinians also renounce their aggression, and only they can sit on the table and decide to live peacefully. But there are other problems. Everybody agrees that Palestinians should have whatever before 1967 the status of the West Bank should become the Palestinian and state, and also the Gaza connected with a corridor which will be accessible to all Palestinian citizens, also a corridor into the sea, because every country must have an access to the sea, and the assured border. But the most important, another irritant will be the illegal Israeli settlements within Palestine, that state on the West Bank, which has come up since 1967. The Israel must be persuaded to remove those illegal settlements back to their own territory, and that will be again a very difficult task. But without that, you cannot have a permanent peace. So all these things are very difficult to achieve at this time, but without it, you will be a continuous permanent state of hostilities which is going on since 1948. And that is also not something that people want. And in fact, that this aggression against other Arab states, as you said, they have been all because of these Palestinian issues. The Israelis have not changed the map. Israelis have changed the map within Palestine by action, you see, by their aggression. But again, quite often the aggression has come from the Arab countries also. Like if you say the 67 war, which was the biggest map changing event, that was started by the Egyptians and the Syrians and the Jordanians, and the Israelis, they reacted to that. So let us, as a part of the history, if we want to live in peace, it is always a give and take, and only possible. Actually, there was a solution in the Camp David agreement, but that was, again, there are extremists on both sides, and they are bent upon destabilizing the whole situation, and neither the Oslo peace agreement nor the Camp David agreement worked, because the moderates who want peace in the Middle East, they were always targeted, they were killed, you see. The Israeli Prime Minister was killed, the Egyptian President was killed. So the risk of those who seek peace always there, but ultimately if you want to seek peace, you have to renounce violence.
Exactly, sir. Control, would you please let me know whether are we getting any connections from New York or from Washington? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is a time to go for a short break. When I'll be back, I'll raise questions on global economy, inflation and debt risk, because economy is the bloodline of all countries, all human race. I'll see you soon.
যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
I said that I need to talk about the global economy and inflation and debt risk, and during the break I have received a breaking news which is popping up in all world business news channels and business pages. This is one of the very famous and very established European bank named BNP Paribas. There is a ban on controversial weapons financing. One bank is financing for controversial weapons, ladies and gentlemen. It is a huge breakthrough in financial news. I want to begin with this news. The bank said the prior ban was too broadly defined and will now distinguish between weapons that comply with international treaties versus those that did not. I want to start with Shamsul Alam Panto. He will be joining very soon, but one question I need to do, Ishfaq Elahi, a very senior learned person. Sir, I want to know, Bangladesh team under the leadership of interim caretaker chief Professor Muhammad Yunus is in United Nations General Assembly. What outcome you expect from this participation?
Well, one of the biggest problem we have right now is of the economy. Although this General Assembly is not the primarily focused on the economy, but thing is that the poverty and international aid that we are always seeking, I hope that our team will be able to meet some of those policymakers. So those, for example, IMF, World Bank, WTO and other heads of states, and they can urge on the increased investment in Bangladesh. Unfortunately, over the last few years, our foreign investment in Bangladesh has been on decline, and despite our efforts, we haven't got much headway. That is one. And again, most important thing, as you also earlier you said about Rohingya issues, it has gone in the backstage of the world. Nobody is talking about it. Ukraine war and Gaza and the Middle East and terrorism and all sorts of things are right in the forefront, especially China, US and Russian tug of war. But what about our own pain is in our southeast, the Rohingya. Nobody is going. And in fact, despite the visit of the UN Secretary General to that area, their daily ration has been cut, as I have heard. And so you see, we are putting this enormous pressure on Bangladesh and our economy, which we can really bear, our own people, and we are now to feed another 1.5 million, and it's growing. So this also is a security threat, in the sense that when people are jobless, people have no future, people have desperate, they get into various crimes and antisocial activities. So those are also to be a threat for Bangladesh. So I hope that our team in the United Nations use their time to impress on these issues to other world leaders, and so that they can come in Bangladesh's side in future.
According to Air Commodore Ishfaq Elahi, I must add something, because media has a role in the reshaping of the society and country. Our politicians are in conventional thought. They seek power, they go to power, they seek vote, they face electoral voting system to go to the power, but they don't care about the demands of Gen Zs, and I want to raise Gen Zs issues right now. And if are you getting connection, anyone from New York or Washington? Control, would you please let me know, is there anyone on the connections? All right, I want to raise this question to Ishfaq Elahi. Sir, you have seen the Sri Lanka Gen Z protest, Bangladesh Gen Z protest, Nepal Gen Z protest. Now it is going on in Manila, I mean Philippines. Do you think the political leaders have a huge communication gap with the youths, and political leaders are engaged with corruption? That's why Gen Zs are speaking. They are speaking very clearly on the street.
Yes, I mean they are the future of the nation, and they know it. And if we can't, when they see that the future is dark, and especially on the economic front, they always will protest. Now you see in Bangladesh, for example, we have an increasingly unemployed, educated unemployed, and that is fusing the social. They are like a social time bomb. You see, it has exploded in July 24, and it may explode more and more, unless we address these things.
Yes, sir.
But unfortunately, our leaderships are not focusing on those things. For example, one thing is, as you mentioned about Nepal, one thing I must appreciate, that it also reflects on the cultural level. I was very, very happy when I saw that after the formation of a new government, the students, they apologized for their violence, anything, and they said that we didn't want to cause it, and we didn't do it, somebody did it, but we take the responsibility, and then they've gone back to the classroom. Yeah. They've gone back to the classroom. Now, if we in Bangladesh, if we continue to focus on the political activities alone, for example, you see, I don't mind, I mean, we had the elections in various universities, which is very good, because we haven't had the election for all these years. But if our main focus remains on the election, and not on the research, and not on the course curriculum, not on improving our education system to face the challenges that is coming up in the already is on the 21st century and every day increasing, then we are going to go back, you see. And the people, they know it, the young people, they are very much conscious. So, for example, I mean, let me talk about, I'm in one of the private universities, and our students were in the forefront of the July movement. Yeah. But on the 13th or 14th August, they all decided
in 2024.
Few days after the formation of the new government, they said we will get back to the class. And since that day till this morning, I am coming from the university, and I addressed students on these issues. I said that you people have really done the miracle. You have come back to the class. Every exam, every courses are going on. But if we see our people, they suffered. They didn't die, but many of them were injured, and we are still treating them. But there are universities where nobody died, nobody, but they are now right on the political forefront, and the leadership, a lot of information that have come up from the new leadership are not very encouraging. They are not focusing on the primary issues for which this the movement started, and that is against corruption and for employment, for economic benefits. So, I mean, if we don't do those things, we'll now think of Nepal. Nepal, the royalties were removed from power, and a communist, what was his name? He was a teacher in the
K.P. Sharma Oli.
No, Oli was the president, but the the man behind the communist movement was Prachanda. But once they went to power, they became corrupt themselves, and now they have been whole lot have been thrown out, and you have seen how they ran away from the. This is a very sad state of affairs of the leftists, which we generally think communists, that they are more pro people, more less susceptible to corruption. So if we can't deliver, whether you are a rightist or you are a leftist or you are a centrist, if you can't deliver, then you have no place.
Very loud and clear, sir. This comment is very loud and clear. The government or the people in government has to deliver. I am very delighted to get back Norman from Washington DC and Shamsul Alam Pantho from New York. Shamsul Alam Pantho, I just need to do one question which during the show people are asking in the social medias, that what outcome you expect from the delegation. Huge number of delegation, more than 85 people are traveling to New York right this moment under the leadership of interim chief Professor Muhammad Yunus. What outcome Bangladesh will receive from this UNGA meeting? We see the photo sessions in the social media only.
Well, thank you. Our delegation is, of course, quite grand and big that have arrived at the UNGA 80. But towards the end of the program here, and towards the end of when Muhammad Yunus will have bilateral chats with a lot of other leaders that are here, towards the end there is a program in which the Rohingya crisis, the Rohingya question, what to do here, and it ties up with Myanmar, and in my analogy we understand that there has to be a resolution regarding what has already had taken place. We were talking about a peaceful corridor which the army in Bangladesh had said otherwise. So the United Nations should be able to give an answer regarding this issue, and of course our delegation that went to the US, they are trying to have sideline meetings with other leaders to understand how the United Nations will respond to this issue of almost 1.1 million Rohingyas residing in Bangladesh as a consequence of genocidal acts and ethnic cleansing held out by Myanmar.
All right, Norman, you have to complete it within 1 minute. My question would be, I personally have covered many times UNGA in New York. I have seen the president of the host country is so humble to the world leaders coming to New York. But this time we have seen French President Emmanuel Macron is stuck on the street due to NYPD, New York Police Department, because motorcade of the United States presidents are going, and he had to wait 15 minutes and called President Trump that I am stuck on the street.
Yes, your question, what is your question?
My question is, don't you think these are very unprecedented job by an elected president?
In regards to the security, that's what the question is? Because I'm a little confused.
All right, Norman, security for the President of the United States. He is the President of the host country.
Okay, all right, my quick response to that, actually you touched on someone who actually did this. I was responsible for security for several inaugurations, and this is typical. New York is one of the places where we have some of the best security in the world, and everything has to be planned, everything has to be scheduled, and this is what happens when you have security. Everything is tight. You can't walk around, you can't move. Everything has to be planned and scheduled.
All right,
so this is typical.
Yeah, all right, typical. Mr. Norman, huge thanks for rejoining. All right, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, huge thanks and gratitude for rejoining with us. You have enriched our today's program and its contents by providing insightful information and thought-provoking contents. I appreciate both of you and enjoy good weather in United States of America. My last question to Ishfaq Elahi sir. Is Bangladesh capable to host such a large number of Rohingyas for uncertain times?
Not at all, not at all. And it is, as I told you, it is getting increasingly difficult. because our own economic situation, if you see, our growth rate has reduced from plus 6%, it has now come down to about 3%, and I don't see it in immediate future a big rise. So our fund allocation for these Rohingyas will become a big problem unless the world community comes in. Another, the continued stay itself, if they keep on staying there, and with an uncertain future, as I said, that it might lead to conflict with the local people. It is already has damaged the local
so you prefer
ecosystem.
you prefer it should be the number one high priority concentration
Absolutely,
of all government
yeah,
to resolve
yeah.
these problems, and taking help from international leaders, starting diplomacy with the world. I tell you gentlemen one thing before I go for ending the show, the leaders has to ensure the security, safety, integrity, sovereignty and the development of this nation, otherwise leadership gets failure. I will see you again on Sunday.